and William is an environmental supervisor with the City of Los Angeles, and I got to keep the introductions a little short because we're running short on time, so welcome, William.
This is about the discovery of the Orcutt pincushion, which is during construction of the Bio-Lagoon Phase 1 Enhancement Project. The Bio-Lagoon Enhancement Project was disrupted by the great discovery of a rare plant, the Orcutt's pincushion. This paper has an outline of its introduction, project elements, including the original project elements, the discovery and actions to protect the species, public and private interaction, timeline and some information on the genus and the variety, and the restoration plan, modifications to the project, monitoring results to date, trends, problems, and sustainability issues. The project site is located in the western part of the city of Los Angeles, between Santa Monica and LAX. Generally, the site is sandwiched between Marina del Rey and the Pacific Ocean, and it's also connected to the Venice Canals and Grand Canals system. So it's all one hydrologic system. In the 1930s, the area was thoroughly trashed by development of oil. As you can see by the oil rigs, their shadows on the 1930 aerial photograph. And the oil production essentially destroyed the native plant populations along the lagoon. In the 2010 project, the site was characterized by random volunteer trails and weeds, mostly non-native. And then there's some remnants of the oil production are still there. Especially there's heavy thickets of ice plant which need to be removed, and non-native trees which people complained about. And this is an example of the pincushion area, which was covered by non-native weeds, mostly non-native shrubs and debris. The Phase 3 project is a 4-acre site. The lagoon itself is 16 acres. The elevation ranged from 0 to 2 meters. And the purpose was to restore habitat and provide community recreation and educational opportunities. The basic goals were to remove the non-native vegetation, revegetate with native upland dune plants, and realign and improve the west bank to access trail, constructing a 3-foot-high fence on both sides to keep out the animals and the people, and construct a public education information area. The original project included a meandering path parallel to Pacific Avenue and plantings similar to that on the east bank of the canal, which are different from the upland coastal strand. There was a full irrigation regimen of 1 year, and then we were to abandon the lines. There was erosion control and accommodation for the least during nesting season, which is March through September, and biological monitoring was included. I discovered the plant in February of 2010, and during pre-construction, we were just to flag the native plants so the contractor would avoid them. I collected a specimen, identified it, and took it to Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden, where Mark Porter and Jim Hendrickson of Cal State LA verified it. I then notified the Coastal Commission and Fish and Game, now Fish and Wildlife, of the presence. We identified areas of distribution and set up temporary fencing for protection, and began consultations and preparations for the action plan. These are the people I consulted, including the Friends of the Biome Wetlands, and I'm sorry I don't remember the person's name I talked to, but she was very helpful. Essentially, the original coastal development permit was issued in June of 2009, and we stopped work in February of 2010, and the amended CDP was approved in August of 2010. The restoration plan was submitted to the Coastal Commission and Fish and Game for approval. We restarted construction in December of 2011, finished in June 2012. There was a 5-year monitoring period which started in June 2012 and ended in 2017. There's 18 species of the genus Cyanactis. Only one has yellow flowers, Leproscula, and there are 5 varieties of the species. The one that we're interested in has succulent leaves, cobwebby, vestiture, and twice pinnate leaf pattern. It's a CNPS 1B1 rare, seriously threatened in California, and it's reported in 4 Southern California counties. LA is one of them. The closest reported occurrences are in Bionda wetlands and the Dune Park and Manhattan Beach. It's a herbaceous annual, a lifespan of about 8 months, late winter to early summer. Flowering is February to July. It's in a clustered distribution, prefers mostly sandy soils in open areas away from the high tide line. The common associates, I'll show you pictures of later, but they all form the coastal strand, upland, and beach dune habitats, and the San Rubina beach burr series. Here are the life stages of the pincushion, from seedling to bolting to flowering to fruiting. The beach evening primrose and the San Rubina, beach burr, saltgrass, slender phlox, and telegraph reed, broadwire lettuce are all common associates. The telegraph reed is a weed, actual weed, and it does tend to, at least to be controlled. The other native bird plants at the site are the red sand verbena and woolly sea blight. The restoration plan I developed in December 2010, as I mentioned, and then it took 2 months to be approved by the agencies. The restoration plan included an aerial division of the project site, restoration, pincushion, and potential pincushion areas, a change in the irrigation and planting scheme, change in the weeding regimen, biological monitoring, and the recommendations were incorporated into the CDP and listed in the plan. This is an aerial photograph of the project site, which is outlined in light blue. The numbered light green areas are pincushion, and the yellow areas are potential pincushion. This is a table showing the quantifications. We essentially took out irrigation and hydroseeding from the pincushion potential areas. The weeding we changed by hand in these areas and avoided it all during the seeding emergence. We collected seeds and sowed them in the potential areas and a limited extent the pincushion areas. The path alignment was variable in the original project, but we changed pushing it against Pacific Avenue and narrowing it to 4 feet, which increased the habitat area. We have monitoring results from 2010 to 2014, species data, population data, vegetation cover, and plant density data. The population in 2003, the native species were 17 out of 44, and then 2010 went up to 23, 2014 increased to 43. We added species from the planting plan. The native California species increased from 12 to 20 in the pincushion areas. The population basically doubled every year from 2010 to 2013 to up to 300,000 estimated, and then crashed to 62,000 last year. This is probably due to the drought. The plant density also was variable, and it followed mostly the seasonality on the last 2 months because of the drought, the drop off in the native plants. But I can't explain why the restoration rate increased. Probably the soil differences. The mean gross cover increased at the beginning, the pink The restoration area was increased probably due to irrigation. The pincushion probably because of weeding. And potential area, I can't explain. The relative cover, percent native to percent non-native, was very close together at the beginning, but a heavy weeding caused us to increase the difference between the native and the non-native. The non-native are dashed and the native are solid colored. So you have this more falling seasonality in the native pincushion areas, in the non-native areas are getting close to that, as was the potential area. The trends are the aerial extent is increasing. It's about 1 acre now out of the 4. Population is, we think, is stabilizing, the density as well. The native plant species are increasing in diversity. The relative density is increasingly native. Absolute cover may be stabilizing because we cut off the irrigation, and the relative native cover has a high proportion of native to non-native. We have problems still with the drought, people trashing and dumping and weed control, and problems with the wildlife, gophers, ducks, dogs, and dog owners. You can see gophers and the dog owners left their marks, and as well construction waste, which is very convenient across the street from residential projects. And the one neighbor in the upper right, she decided to plant ice plant in the restoration area, and she claimed that it was a natural occurrence.
Yeah.
And she also built her deck in the city right of way. And DWP, they're wonderful. They store their telephone poles on our project site, and we need to call them. The major problems of the quarterly maintenance is not sufficient for this project. There's long-term maintenance issues beyond 2017, and the fence is cedar, and its lifespan is 15 to 30 years, so in 10 years it'll start to fall over, and we need to address that. Here's some construction photos of grubbing and weeding, laying of irrigation lines, building of the fence. And here's the final project with the signage and the fencing. And here's what it looks like today, well, before the flowering. And looks like an upland dune habitat, which our restoration ecologist has said is fairly good signs of heaven. And for sustainability issues, we want a self-regulating upland dune vegetation habitat with high percent of native cover and no irrigation. The reality is that it's surrounded by urban uses, and the lagoon level is controlled by tide gates manually, typical to a 9-to-5 workday, not naturally. We still have a problem with water pollution, solid waste, and algae blooms in the lagoon, solid waste in the restoration area. It requires some degree of maintenance, weeding, picking up trash, maintaining the fence and the trails. But you need local community involvement to support, protect the urban rare plant populations. Thank you.
There's time for questions.
So do you have much community buy-in for the project, or you plan on incorporating that in the future?
There's lots of residential support, local neighborhood residential associations, the Friends of the Bioma Wetlands. There's a couple of people who want to take control over the whole thing. In fact, when we first started the project, they wanted to build a 10-foot high fence along the street and wall it off from everyone. But this is a good compromise, allowing the community to use the trails, to appreciate the wildlife and the nature, and in the end, protect it. But we also need to discuss the long-term maintenance issues with the city council and the people who have control of the budget. Yeah, we, instead of having the crew take out the ice plant like I should have, I decided to use the bureaucratic path, which hasn't been cited by the Bureau of Street Services, and then having a hearing and having them asked to remove it. But if they don't want to do it, we'll have to go to the city attorney's office. And if that doesn't work, we'll just have a crew come out and take out the ice plant building.
We still have a couple minutes if anyone has any additional questions.
What about the deck in the right of way?
Oh, that too. That was, the first project was started in 1999. And then that person brought a lawsuit against the city. And then they lost. But then the city decided to let them keep their deck and then revise the plan to avoid it. So them and the neighbor next to them had the same deck.
I'm working on reintroducing a Shasta cactus suffrutescens, and I would love any of your restoration plan methodologies for seeding and outplanting.
Okay.
Even though there are different species, it could be valuable. So I'm having not so much success. So.
Okay. Give me your card and